Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the president of the USTFCCCA, Leroy Burrell.
All right. Got a rowdy crowd here tonight. I have everyone's attention, please. All right. Now, I want everybody to hear me for just a second, okay? If you can imagine this, you have you coach for 25, 30, 40, who knows, years, and then it's your night. You're inducted into the Hall of Honor, and, they serve a few too many drinks outside. Everybody's a little loose on the lips, and that opportunity to honor that lifelong achievement of the young men and women that some of our distinguished coaches have tutored, and that achievement's not honored appropriately. So if you don't mind, let's give our distinguished guests and honorees their due tonight. Well, it started back in 1995. The USA Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association Hall of Fame exists to recognize coaches who brought great distinction to themselves, their institutions, and to the sports of track and field and cross country. The USTFCCCA Hall of Fame is committed to preserving the legacies and celebrating the storied careers of those who have made significant contribution in these sports. Since its inception, 204 coaches representing 106 different institutions spanning collegiate and high school levels have been inducted into the USTFCCCA Hall of Fame. Each of these honorees exemplifies the qualities of dedication to the sport, leadership, and passion for the profession that serve as an inspiration to coaches everywhere in every sport. Let's take a look back at the career of our first inductee, Peter Farrell.
Peter Farrell built his legacy at Princeton from the ground up. Following a standout collegiate career at Notre Dame, where he was twice an All-American in the 880, Farrell's coaching career began at Christ the King High School in New York. There, he established a girls' program that won several championships, including the AAU Eastern Regional Cross Country title. In the fall of 1977, he was called to Princeton as the first full-time head coach of women's cross country and track and field. Within a year, the program gained intercollegiate status, and from there, 4 decades of success. The new program got off to a hot start, winning 11 Ivy League titles in his first 6 years on campus. His first recruit, Lynn Jennings, went on to become the first American woman to win an Olympic medal in a distance event. The Tigers won the league Triple Crown during the 1980-81 academic year and replicated that feat exactly 30 years later, starting with the 2012 cross-country title. The Tigers reeled off 5 HEPS cross-country titles in a row from the mid to late 2000s, and no team was better than the 2009 squad, the first and still only team in Ivy League history to accumulate a perfect score of 15 at the conference meet. All told, Farrell coached 55 All-Americans who led his teams to 4 Mid-Atlantic region cross-country titles and 2 top 5 finishes at the NCAA cross-country championships. Farrell is the 4th Princeton coach to be inducted into the USTFCCCA Coaches Hall of Fame, joining Larry Ellis, Keen Fitzpatrick, and Fred Samara. Please welcome Peter Farrell to the Coaches Hall of Fame.
Leroy Burrell. Thank you so much, Leroy. It's good to go first because you can't compare me to anybody else, and I'll set the bar fairly low. So the first thing I want to do is recognize the band. I had Eric Clapton on lead guitar, and we had Keith Moon on drums, and Ben Strobing on bass. Wait a minute, Ginny, is this the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? No? Oh, sorry, wait. Let me change things here. All right. First thing, break up the tension a little bit, but anyway, first thing I want to do is recognize my classmates. I'm 74 years old and I have a new set of classmates. Do you believe that? I'm thrilled to be part of this group. Where I come from, Princeton, we do a lot of stuff, or a lot of big things with reunions of classes. So what I want to say, Don, John, Dr. Nancy, Dennis, we're going to have a reunion for the class of 21, 25 years from now. I expect you to be back here. It'll be in the year 2046, and hopefully maybe we'll get a 50th in the year 2071. So I'll give you a call, all right? But anyway, what you want to know is, how did a scraggly-haired kid a street kid from Queens, New York, get to stand up here? Yeah, so do I. So thinking about it, I have to look at the answer, and the answer's right in front of me. Now, a guy named Bill Farrell can't be here. He's a Princeton track athlete. He was on the team in '77, and he found out that Princeton was going to start a women's program. He knew that I had coached and started a women's program, high school track program in Queens, New York, and he called his high school coach and said, see if Farrell is interested in coaching college. So he asked me, the coach asked me if I'm interested in coaching college, and I said, well, I liked high school track. I loved college track. Then he said to me, now hold on, this isn't just college, this is Princeton. Whoa, okay, a light bulb went off in my head. And through the whole process, I was lucky enough to land at a place where I never had a reason to leave. In fact, a newspaper man interviewing me after a couple of years said, you've had success here, do you want to move on to some bigger time program? And I said, my actual answer was, you can bury me right here, because I'm not leaving. Princeton was a great place for me, and a great place, period. My two daughters are Tigers. And I'm the fourth to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, into the Coaches Hall of Fame. I did some research. When Keane Fitzpatrick, you saw his picture, went into the hall, I was the person who did the research on him, and I was amazed. He was the track coach at Princeton from 1910 to 1930. But in the year 1898, he was the head track coach at Michigan, and Princeton lured him away from Michigan. He was the head track coach. He was also the head football coach, and he was also, Jasper, the head trainer at Michigan. So don't tell me you're busy, because this guy set the standard. My other colleague who's also in is Fred Samara. Fred Samara, as you know, is one of the greatest coaches in the country. I don't know if anybody has won as many conference titles as Fred. Really an amazing, and by the way, we started Princeton on the exact same day. And we've had that relationship going on for 40-somewhat years. And then the great Larry Ellis, who many of you looked up to. I certainly did. First African-American to be a head coach in the Ivy League, and I'm proud to say, my mentor. In fact, when Fred Samara heard that I got into the Hall of Fame, he sent me a one-line blurb email, and it was, Larry is looking down, he's very proud. Larry. Okay, so again, getting back to how do you do this? Number one, get yourself a good publicity agent, okay? Somebody who can fill out forms, somebody who can pump you up and support you. And I had a guy in my program, Mike Henderson, who just, did an amazing job with that. In fact, as my director of operations towards the end of my career, he was doing 85% of my work. So people said, why are you retiring if this guy does 85% of your work? Which he did, but thank God he's moved on to Cornell, where he's the head coach. Thank you, Mike. Okay, after you get a publicity agent, you got to get past the committee, all right? When the Princeton alumni heard that I'd been going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, one of my better alumni runners dropped me a note saying that the committee better take a hard look at the standards they've been using. So that's how they think of me at Princeton. But anyway, I know some of you are here from the committee, and do you take PayPal or Venmo? Oh, wait a minute, you're old school, so the check's in the mail. All right, next thing you need is you need to have, let me think, you have to have a model. Somebody you can model yourself after, a role model, so to speak. What did I have? I had my brother, Tom Farrell, right over here. You may have heard of him, two-time Olympian. We call him 24-karat Tom because he won gold most of the time, though he got a bronze medal in Mexico City. If you want to know more, if you don't know him, want to know more, just look up his Facebook. It's just wallpapered with his results. Okay, so this is, if you don't mind me a second doing some humble bragging. In 1972, Track and Field News, the Bible of the sport, did a column article in which they figured out the top brother combination of all time in every event. This is 1972. And I look back at my career and Tom's career, his 145.6 in Mexico City and my 147.1 at the U.S. Nationals in Bakersfield are the top. Now, I've been a student of the sport ever since, and I've not seen anybody top that. Any brothers top? Is Walt Murphy here? But anyway, more than that, maybe a village in Kenya or maybe a fjord in Norway, but we stand on top. And by the way, Tom, that's not about you and it's not about me. That's about Mommy. That woman could fly long before Title IX. Okay. Next, what you need is you need to have coaches. You need to have a rival. You really do. You need to have Army, Navy, UCLA, USC, Ali Frazier. Princeton had a very natural rival. This, I think, makes your experience as a coach and develops you in the right direction. We had a natural rival in UPenn. UPenn, large school, Princeton, smaller school, UPenn, urban school, Princeton, sort of a small town, suburban school. They had a rivalry going back to the Paleolithic era. But when I first started coaching, I bumped up against Betty Costanza, who was the UPenn coach for a long time. And I'm not going to say that she's a pioneer, because that's too trite. She was an original, believe me, she was an original. But you need to have, we knew every year, first Saturday in February, she would come in with the team loaded for us. They were absolutely just nails. And it was hammer and tong, we went at it, and all I remember was it always came down to the relay, it always came down to the triple jump, and it would be red and black on one side of the track, and orange, red and black, red and blue on one side of the track, and orange and black on the other, and there's people yelling at each other, and just what competition and track should be all about. And, you know, years later, I ran into her athlete, and she said to me, you know, for the Princeton meet, nobody was allowed to be injured. You couldn't be hurt. Betty would go in and clean out the training room, get on the bus. We're going against Princeton. And I mean, to me, that was respect. And then one time when the meet came to a close, there was no longer a viable meet, she said, where are we going to get our qualifying performances for the conference and for regionals and for Easterns? It was just a very, very great, tight, tense competition. And I was proud to say that I belonged to a league. Betty's one of my best friends. So is the coach from Yale, Mark Young, and Lou Dusing from Cornell. She put it this way: we work hard and plan all week to go against our friends on the weekend, and it's just we come out of it with friendship. So I feel great about that. Anyway, I'm getting the high sign that I got to start moving along. Next thing I want to talk about, here I got UPenn people sitting with Princeton people over here. See what I've done? That's good stuff. Anyway, next thing I want to talk about is coaches' kids. Those of you who coach and have kids know where I'm going with this. The world's changed. It's no longer 9 to 5. Everybody has to work 8 to whenever. Everybody has to travel for their job. But look what we do. I mean, cross-country, indoors, outdoors, summer camps, recruiting. It's just way much for us to ask of our children to, persevere through what we have to go through. I have 2 kids. Please stand up, Susan and Virginia. All right? Susan and Virginia. No. Remain standing, quickly. No, remain standing. What I wanted to say is that that's not it. A lot of jobs have that. But more importantly, we as coaches, if coaching is anything, it's emotional investment, and that's what it is. And you have to share that emotional investment with hundreds of surrogate children who you developed, who you brought along. And you did that, and I really appreciate that. And I want you to know that, thank you for your patience, and thank you for your understanding. I don't have much to offer you other than tomorrow we're going to Disney World. That's all they care about. I know I'm running out of time, and I asked the announcer that if I do run out of time and play music, make it Motown. All right. So, but anyway, now those of you who feel that these conventions are a little out of hand, a little too much, I want to offer you this. And my first convention was 1985 in Houston, Texas, the TAC convention, and I worked hard. I was in committees. I was learning a lot about different events. Then it came time at the end of the week to go out and blow off some steam. And Gary Schwartz, the old coach at Kansas, Penn State, Tennessee, who was the president of this organization, said, "Peter, you ought to go to Studebaker's Pub, because anywhere where the girls ask me to dance and they play 60s music, it's okay in my book." So I went there, walked in the place, and I saw a face. I saw a face that caught me. But of course I needed a beer, so I went to the bar and I said, "Can I get a beer?" Well, I was standing there, I got a tap on the shoulder, and this very pretty face said, "Can I have this dance?" And I said, "Yes, for the rest of my life." So you had coaches' kids, I had a coach's wife, and I knew from the start that this is the person. I waited until I was 42. This is the person who could get me to be a coach by being a coach's wife to coach's kids. She was there for the thick and thin, for the up and down, for the good and the bad. She even listened to my stories very patiently. And she was just what I needed to be what I wanted to be. And I'm going to close by saying, look, I mentioned a Princeton track athlete who helped my career. I mentioned my father. I mentioned my brother. I mentioned other people who helped me along the way. But Shane, stand up, please. All I want to say to end this is that without you doing what you did and the support that you gave me, I wouldn't be up here. Hey, track and field's a great sport. And I beat the music. Track and field's a great sport. Take care of it.
For more than 4 decades, Don Larson turned North Dakota State into a perennial force. From 1979 until he retired 41 years later in 2020, the Bison's successes not only spanned decades, it transcended divisions. For the first 25 years of Larson's tenure, the Bison left their mark in the NCAA Division II and the North Central Conference, where his teams claimed 36 conference crowns. His athletes combined for 11 national event titles and 206 All-American honors over that span. On top of that, Larson was named the Coaches Association National Coach of the Year in 2004, following a third-place outdoor finish, the school's best placing at a national meet. The success continued after the Bison transitioned to NCAA Division I and the Summit League. NDSU added 18 more conference titles, including the 2020 indoor crown in his final season. In 2019, Peyton Otterdahl became NDSU's first individual national champ in any sport when he won the shot put and weight throw crowns at the NCAA Division I Indoor Championships. Larson said it best in the middle of his career, quote, "Philosophically, our program believes that we need to work hard, train smart, and still have a lot of fun." A philosophy and accomplishments that add up to a Hall of Fame career. Please welcome Don Larson to the class of 2021.
I think that was my grandkids saying, "Hi, Papa." Hi, guys. How's it going? I have to admit, I inherited a lot of great things from my parents, but unfortunately, one of the things I inherited from my father is dementia. And so I have to use notes, and I've got a very patient wife. A couple of very special guests that we have, some current NDSU staff members and former coaches. Head coach Stevie Keller and his lovely wife Erin, who I actually recruited, so it got Stevie to stay around. Casey Whitty, former Nebraska assistant coach, Reese Vega, former NDSU athlete. And then former NDSU coaches that have gone on, Ryan Godfrey, currently at Kansas State, Andrew Carlson at Louisville, and Tim Byers at Baker. I've had a pleasure of working with some amazing people, some amazing athletic directors. NDSU, North Dakota State, and why. I had opportunities to leave, but North Dakota State, I mean, how many states have, or towns have movies named after them? I mean, Fargo, one of the best movies ever, you know, and Fargo, people say, yeah, you betcha. And if we don't like you, we throw you in the wood chipper. Believe it or not, I actually student taught elementary. And I had a job waiting for me in Brookings, South Dakota. I student taught under Steve Berseth. Steve has become the AD. It would have been the ideal job and the job I was really looking forward to. But I took a one-year interim appointment at Concordia of Moorhead, the Cobblers of Concordia. And 1 year turned into 3. But my job at Concordia, I was head men and women's cross country and wide receivers coach in football. The offensive line coach was the head basketball coach and head baseball coach. Everybody coached multiple sports. And in my 3rd year, my football position, they brought in another position, which was great. But then I ended up taking the hockey team to Wisconsin Superior when Concordia qualified for the Division III National Football Championships. So I've coached pretty much everything. But anyway, the 1 year turned into 3, and the legendary Sonny Galsvig, again, was the offensive line coach. He was my mentor. He got me the job at NDSU. He was working in a summer basketball camp, and the AV said, well, what can you tell me? He goes, Sonny says, hire a guy and get him out of my house. And like I say, and North Dakota State was great. I might be dumb, but I'm not stupid. So I married the head women's coach, Is she out there? Okay. Angelo State. We met at the '84 Olympic trials. She actually coached Turnell Hawkins, is that correct? Yeah, who made the U.S. Olympic team. And Desiree competed at Michigan State for the legendary Jim Bibbs, who's in the Hall of Fame. I had met Jim at Drake. Matter of fact, I sat by him for several years, so when she was telling me about Jim Bibbs, I said, yeah, the guy looks like Fred Sanford's grandpa, you know? So unfortunately, I ended up with a great wife, amazing mother, an assistant coach who was our jump coach for many years, most of the event records. Matter of fact, she coached Brent Parmer, who is one of our former athletes out there, and an amazing fishing partner. So needless to say, my wife has never considered divorce, but only murder, and usually at a weekly basis. Some special people with me, daughters Kelsey and Kira. Now granted, both their parents are track coaches. Kelsey, a Northwest Missouri grad, played volleyball, is currently, or was a nurse in pediatric oncology, now nurse in ER at Children's Mercy in Kansas City. Her husband Luke was a baseball player at Northwest Missouri and will eventually be my employer when I become a farmer in Nebraska. And their 2 sons, Miles and Mac. How you doing, Mac? He's hanging in there. And then Kira. Kira was our protege, basically a 4-sport athlete, ended up playing for the University of Missouri Tigers under the great Wayne Krecklow, and became the first team sport athlete to graduate in nursing, played professional volleyball in Italy, and is now a COVID nurse in St. Louis. The kids traveled with us. Yeah. You know, the kids traveled with us everywhere on the bus, and, you know, the guys, you know, really humored her and things. But Kira come up the bus one time, I think she's like 5 or 6, she's crying. She goes, Dad, I need $10. So what for? She says, well, the guys won't want to play poker if I don't have any money. You know, fortunately, I've had a lot of athletes, a lot of great assistants, administrators and things. But what stands out the most of all the accomplishments is that we had 10 different individuals win NCAA post-grad scholars. And when you think of North Dakota State, you may not think of it as that, but engineering, architecture, medicine, and things have been a big draw. And they had the privilege of coaching me. The thing is, with me, growing up, my father barely finished an 8th grade education, but I learned so much growing up, and he taught me so much about life, and that life is your faith, your family, and your friends. And when you think about faith, family and friends, is faith is what you believe in. You have to believe in yourself, believe in your coaches, believe in your athletes. Your family, hold tight, because trust me, you only get one chance. And your friends, it's the people in your circle. And fortunately for me, that circle was really big. And you walk around here and I just can't believe the number of people that I've had an opportunity to get, like George Williams. Yeah, George, I finally get you. George calls me the week we get married. He goes, hey, got you set up in Bahamas. I go, George, I said, we're going to California. He goes, okay, well, I'll catch you on your anniversary. So, trust me, he held true to his form. Kira competed in a U.S. national youth meet, and we had so much fun hanging out in Raleigh, North Carolina with George and his lovely wife. Wow. But anyway, it's been a big circle, and I can say to all you young coaches, and I met quite a few, there was a couple on our flight, and we bumped into others, says, enjoy the ride, kids. It's amazing. Anyway, and in Fargo, go Bison.
John Weaver built a distinguished career with Appalachian State that lasted nearly 4 decades. However, coaching track and field at his alma mater really wasn't Weaver's initial goal. After graduating from App State in 1971, he returned to his hometown of Fayetteville, North Carolina, to teach high school biology. His research and fascination with exercise science eventually led him to become head coach of the track programs at Douglas Byrd High. And in pursuit of his master's in biology back at App State, Weaver worked with the men's running programs as a graduate assistant. Intending to return to high school teaching, App State offered Weaver the option of becoming head coach for the startup women's program in 1982. That path that he chose led to years upon years of success. And in 1995, Weaver was named the head coach of the men's program as well. The Mountaineer women would go on to win the Southern Conference's Triple Crown 7 times, while the men added 4 of their own. All told, Weaver's programs accumulated 78 conference team championships within the SoCon and the Sun Belt Conference. Among the more than 560 conference champions he coached are Melissa Morrison, who won 12 SoCon individual titles and went on to earn a pair of Olympic bronze medals, and Mary Jane Harrelson, who won the NCAA 1500-meter crown in 1999 and 2001. Outside of App State, Weaver was the women's sprints and hurdles coach for the U.S. National Under-23 team in 2012. And in addition to leadership roles within the Coaches Association, he served on the NCAA's Rules Committee and the NCAA Division I Sport Committee. Weaver retired in 2018, and he can now sit back and enjoy the numerous grad assistants and former athletes that make up a bountiful coaching tree. A lasting legacy that will pay off for decades to come. He is John Weaver, Hall of Fame, Class of 2021.
Yep. You know, I learned as I got a little older, there's 3 things that occur. You lose your sight, you lose your hearing, and I can't remember the other thing. That's for you, George Williams. George and I used to have a little fun before meets when we meet, and I enjoyed his joke. I'd always bring a joke, and it's something I remember forever, George. This recognition is a tremendous honor. I feel so privileged to be among these incredible inductees tonight. Since I received the news of the induction, so many memories have surfaced. 47 years. It's a little tough to kind of narrow it down. But it was 50 years ago. Don't worry, I won't start there and finish now. When the principal at 71st High School asked me to help the track coach as I was beginning what I thought would be my career in biology. The very next year, I was enticed to transfer to the new Douglas Byrd High School with a guarantee of the head coaching job if I would teach there. That first year inserted the bug for coaching, and I was elated. I couldn't wait. I recall trying to find potential runners before my first season by hanging out by the football cut list and asking those with disappointed faces if they knew how to run. Believe it or not, that tactic brought about 30 or so boys to the first workout. I was on my way. 3 girls came also. Because Bird High had no girls' team, the regulations allowed the boys and girls to compete as one team. Those girls impressed many people that season. They really worked hard, they were good runners, and there was a lot of guys who busted a gut trying to stay ahead of them. But in my 3rd year or so, they were able to recruit some more women, more girls, and then of course we formed a women's team. I remember when the new assistant football coach at Bird High was also designated as an assistant track coach, namely Curtis Fry, now the head coach at South Carolina, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Those high school teams we coached were pretty good. When Bob Pollock, then head track and cross-country coach at Appalachian, later Clemson, called and offered me a part-time coaching position and a chance to earn my master's degree in biology, packed up my little truck, headed back to the mountains, and of course, everything else happened after that. A couple of years later, Rochelle Laney, who was then the assistant AD at App State, and I'm happy to say is at my table this evening, asked if I would begin an NCAA-sanctioned women's track and cross-country program. I was so happy that I cooked not 1, but 2 packs of ramen noodles that night for dinner. And on very special occasions, it would be Denny Moore beef stew and rice. The coaching position was half-time, and I coached solo, and I worked half-time in athletic fundraising, and then later on sports information. So I guess I could have gone several ways in my career, I guess. But anyway, I didn't let any grass grow under my feet, and I quickly developed my mantra of, "We will make it work," which I use to this day. If I ever get a tattoo, even at my age, and particularly at my age, I'll have blazoned across my chest, "We will make it work." Right below, "Do not resuscitate." My first recruits to the women's program were just as passionate about succeeding as I was, and they quickly established themselves as champions. I'm really proud to say that's the whole thing. They bought into everything, and all the recruits we brought in, they bought into it, and it's like a rolling stone, you know? After my first year as head coach, I was able to hire a graduate assistant, Sandra Ford, who became Sandra Sintones and went on to be the longtime head coach for women at Dartmouth. I miss Sandy. In 1995, Rochelle, who had become the AD for App State, offered me the full-time directorship of a combined program for men and women. And as you can see, Rochelle played a very important part in my career. Rochelle, thank you for your confidence in me. Fortunately, he did this with the addition of 3 full-time assistants and 2 part-time assistants, so everything fell in place. And the men's team, which had been quite successful under former head coaches Bob Pollock and Al Farashidyan, didn't lose stride, and so just like the women who continued to win. You know, there's nothing better than remembering those special moments when I saw the pride in an athlete's face when they realized personal bests, not to mention watching a number of them earn conference titles and even national and international accolades. And then the second best time to see their faces at graduation. And I enjoy that more than anything. And I was elated when after Appalachian joined the Sun Belt Conference in 2015, It was the women's indoor track team who earned the distinction of being the very first out of all 20 sports at Appalachian to earn a Sun Belt championship. You know, you wouldn't think that mean much, but it does. Our men's and women's teams faced some unique challenges along the way. But collectively, as coaches and athletes, we always made it work. We focused on what we had, not what we didn't have. Not long ago, my son Jay mentioned reminiscing with Robert Johnson, head coach at Oregon, about a good example of this. Some of you may know Robert was an All-American jumper at Appalachian and began his coaching career at Appalachian as an assistant. As an athlete, Robert did a lot of resistance training, like athletes will do. But, you know, a resistance sled, those type of equipments were really not what we could afford in our budget. So I rigged up a sturdy pull belt harness kind of thing, attached a blanket, put Jay, who was probably in 3rd grade, on the blanket, and off Robert would go, back and forth on the basketball court, Jay holding on for dear life and loving every minute of it. You know, the athletes in my program did more for my son Jay going into track and field than which he has done than anything I could have done. Matter of fact, if it had been up to me, if I was the one going to try to influence him, he probably would have been a baker or a candlestick maker. Mostly I thought about how grateful I am. I'm grateful for the seasoned coaches who shared their knowledge, a lot of them at this convention. But it was ETSU's Dave Walker, also in the Hall of Fame, who became my mentor and my dear friend. In our later coaching years, we were able to log many miles of long chats while we served together on the NCAA track and field committee, and he hated to fly. So that's why we drove. We'd spend 13 to 15 hours on the road because he wasn't going to fly. And I learned early on, he also wasn't going to drive. You know, a little bit of this moving the steering wheel while he was driving. After being a member of NCAA and USTFCCCA committees, provided extraordinary learning experiences for me, and I cherish the opportunities I have to give back to the sport. I recommend this to each and every one, and particularly the younger coaches. It's like the light went on. We had our successes in what we were doing at Appalachian and all that, but until I expanded everything out to a more national level because of work on committees and stuff, it really, really influenced what happened for me later on as well. And there's so many of them, coaches out here that I was able to make contact with and enjoy their fellowship, but also the experiences of track and field in a way that it goes beyond coaching. My final thank yous go out to my college roommates who were runners at Appalachian, 2 of whom are with me this evening, Dr. Robert McKeithen and Don Kennedy. In fact, Don was with the U.S. Elite Running Group back in the 70s, and it was a group of people that included Prefontaine, Kenny Moore, Shorter, and some of those guys, and that was kind of the thing I was working around while I was in college. They sparked my interest in what they were doing, but it was our college coach, Dr. Jerry Mayhew, whose background in exercise science fueled my interest in the science of running. And boy, did it serve me so well through the years. To the current App State coaches, seated over here, all of whom are former App State athletes, thanks for your dedication to our program and all the best for your quest for success in forming your program. I am thankful for all the former assistants who left their mark on our program, leaving behind immeasurable contributions to the App State legacy. To Sam Seams and his staff, under his leadership, as we have as coaches been elevated to a highly organized group of professionals working for the betterment of our sport, and that is no small thing. And last, to my family. My wife, Cindy, did more for this program, as well as covering dad duties, while still working full-time, than I could ever begin to list. You are my guiding force. And my sons Chase and Jay were troopers in understanding that Dad's schedule didn't always conform to theirs, yet they were always there when I needed them. And I'm so proud of Chase because he was a snowboarder. Oh my gosh, a snowboarder. But he finally found his calling in life when he got his degree in nursing, and I'm so proud of him. The absolute best part of my retirement is that now my schedule is wide open for you. I am so lucky to have been doing all these years what I love, in the place that I love, with the people that I love. Thank you for this magnificent honor.
The late Thomas T.E. Jones collaborated to modernize collegiate track and field as we know it today. You could call him a founding father of sorts because he is. Jones, along with Amos Alonzo Stagg of the University of Chicago and John L. Griffith of the University of Illinois, established the first NCAA championship in any sport. In 1921, the inaugural National Collegiate Track and Field Championships were held at Stagg Field in Chicago. At the time, Jones was the athletic director, cross-country, and track and field coach at the University of Wisconsin, roles he held for 35 years until his retirement in 1948. Prior to Wisconsin, Jones coached Missouri to 3 conference titles in track and field. He returned to Madison in 1913 and spent more than 3 decades turning Wisconsin into a Big Ten powerhouse. The Badgers were particularly strong in cross-country, winning 14 conference titles and a pair of top 3 finishes at the NCAA cross-country championships, including a runner-up finish at the second ever installment of the meet in 1939. That success carried over to the track, where the Badgers amassed numerous team titles and his athletes 137 Big Ten event titles. Following his retirement at the age of 70, Jones was named to Team USA's coaching staff for the 1948 Olympic Games in London. A legacy worthy of induction. T.E. Jones, 2021 Coaches Hall of Fame inductee. Dr. Nancy Meyer's impact on Calvin University athletics will long be remembered. Student, athlete, teacher, coach, and administrator. She truly did it all. Meyer began her days at Calvin as a member of the varsity softball and volleyball teams. She stayed on after graduation to teach and coach at her alma mater, taking on the roles of head coach for swimming and diving and the tennis programs until 1983. In 1986, after earning a doctorate from the University of Northern Colorado, Meyer returned to Calvin to take over its women's cross-country program. It didn't take long for the Knights to dominate their conference and produce substantial results at the national level. From 1988 to 2003, Meyer's Knights were unmatched. They won 17 MIAA conference titles and 14 Great Lakes regional crowns, which led to 7 podium finishes at the NCAA D3 championships, including back-to-back national championships in 1998 and 99. Meyer, a 2-time National Coach of the Year, 8-time Regional Coach of the Year, stepped down from her post in 2006. But in addition to her coaching duties, Meyer was a full-time professor in Calvin's kinesiology department, while also serving as athletics director for 15 years until she finally fully retired in 2021. Please welcome Dr. Nancy Meyer, 2021 inductee to the USTFCCCA Coaches Hall of Fame.
Whew. It's kind of nice to follow a dead guy. Makes you a little less nervous. The other tip I learned is that you're naked, So I'm just pretending you're all naked, so if you get chilly, I understand. And that's about as funny as I get, because I got to read this speech here. I want to thank the association. I'm actually quite a stranger to this organization. I wore so many hats in my career that I was usually giving exams this week. And so I missed all these great conventions and these Hall of Fame dinners. In fact, when I got the call in August from our SID, and he said, "Congratulations, Hall of Famer," and I literally said, "Hall of Fame of what?" I just had no idea. So I'm very deeply grateful. I'm humbled, and I'm in such great company tonight with this class of these amazing men. I'm kind of sandwiched in between them all. And it's a thrill for me to be here. I want to thank my family sitting right here with me tonight. My husband, Roy, my daughter, Allie, and her husband, Andrew, my son, Ben. And I have an alum of Calvin, Nicole Farr Kramer, who was able to run the very last year I coached, and her husband, Nick. They are rival coaches to each other in Milwaukee at Concordia, Wisconsin, and Wisconsin Lutheran. Did I get that right? All right. So that's pretty cool that they could be here with me as well. And I'd like to thank Calvin as well to allow a kind of a raw 23-year-old, fresh out of grad school, to come back to her alma mater and be able to work for 42 years, and to be that kind of institution that attracted the caliber of women that came under my care, because without those women, I obviously wouldn't be here. For my whole career, Calvin had this really annoying habit of assigning me to tasks for which I actually had no experience. It was through this, "and now you're going to do this" approach that I came to realize that when we talk about one's calling, it really has less to do with our professional chops and more to do with our purpose in those various roles. And it's really this purpose that I want to talk with you a little bit tonight. When I was assigned to coach cross country in 1986, I was actually the Ted Lasso of college cross country. And I guess you got to watch the show to understand that. In one major respect, I knew nothing about cross country, like Ted knows nothing about football. Sadly, I was not as good looking as Ted, I wasn't as funny as Ted, or as nice as Ted. But on the upside, I've never been called a wanker, so there's that. And you have to watch the show to get that. So I was appointed in 1996, and the same year Calvin hired Brian Deemer, who was a 1984 bronze medalist steeplechaser, to coach our men. So think about that. The men get Brian Deemer, and the women get the swimming coach. So it's like, great, thanks, Calvin. So right away, my approach and purpose was to learn as much as I could and to try and make it a good experience for the women, and to make sure that they didn't have that feeling like, crap, I wish Brian was my coach. And that was pretty motivating. In 1990, my daughter Allie was born, and that really changed our life a lot. It was a huge blessing in many respects, but one was that I got out of coaching swimming. Now think about this. I would go from cross-country practice to swimming. There was quite a bit of an overlap there, so I was very happy to go down to one sport. So back to my purpose. Now my main purpose quickly morphed into model. What was it like to be a working mom? I didn't really have any role models that I knew personally that were trying to do what I was doing. I was coaching, I was teaching. About 6 years later, I became an AD, and along with that, being a wife and mother. And I get to use a word now that you won't hear amongst the men tonight, but I was nursing Allie. Guys can't say that. So she came with me to every meet, and if she wasn't on the bus, My husband Roy drove, and so every weekend, Allie was with us at the meet. And that same was true when Ben was born in '93. You know, where mom goes, child goes. And so it really created a nice family atmosphere for us, but it also meant a lot of extra work for Roy, who gave up every Saturday. Both Roy and I were really committed to allow me to be in the sport and to mentor those women. And yeah, we were really having a lot of success, but that was really not what it was all about. We both believe that sport imitates life, and that there were a lot of lessons to be learned. So more than everything else, more than the trophies and anything else, I just wanted to help the women learn great life lessons. So tonight, I just want to say a couple things to you, whether you're Division I, II, III, NAIA. We all care about expertise. We all care about success. We care about trophies. We're all competitive. But I think there's that common element. We really want the best for our young people. So these are just a few observations. I had like 25, and then I had to cut them way back. So here we go. Number one, commitment comes in surprising ways. I had this runner who came to Calvin in 1991, Amy Rideout, and she was talented. What I really liked about her is she was a racer. You know, you have practice runners and racing runners. She was a racer. Well, she had 3 good years at Calvin, had not made All-American, and she was a speech pathology, well, a major, but we didn't have that major yet at that point. So she transferred to Ball State after her fall, ran indoor and outdoor for Ball State, transferred back to Calvin in the fall of her senior year, made All-American, 35th. So I was like, whew, glad that worked out. But it was that kind of commitment that we had to our program that really, it spoke a lot to me, that somebody would literally go to a school, transfer out, transfer back in just to have that experience. Number 2, leadership comes in many forms. A sassy little sophomore who was a decent runner, but not all that great. Rochelle Bays, after our disappointing finish in 1997, just said, "I want a ring." And I'm like, whoa, girl, whoa, back down. But that's exactly what our team needed. You know, in the Calvin Dutch Reformed way, we're not supposed to be proud. And she was like, I want a ring. And we needed that. We needed that focus, even if it came from a sophomore. Third, you need talented athletes. I was really blessed to coach some really great athletes. I had 2 4-time All-Americans. Not sure how often that happens in Division I and II, but it's pretty rare in Division III in cross country. I had a 3-time All-American and a handful, several 2-time All-Americans that really helped us succeed. But I also had just a bunch of really great kids. And when you take the time, if it's not you, it's someone on your staff to let them know they matter, they play a vital role, I think it'll go a long ways for your team. As been said many times tonight, you need great assistants. I am not a rah-rah person. I don't like giving speeches, in fact. But every team needs that fiery personality. And if you've been around Division III track, you might know Al Hoekstra. And he was a talker. And he didn't do the X's and O's for cross country, but he could give some great speeches. And we loved him for that. You also need that quiet, I'll do anything for this program type coach. And we had that as well. A young woman named Laura Skolma really filled that role. So I'd encourage you to have a really blended staff and look at the personalities, look at their strengths and use those. Next, every program needs a rival. If you're in Division III, you may be familiar with the Calvin Hope rivalry. And we at Calvin, there's nothing we want to do more than beat Hope. Every day of the week and twice on Sunday, we want to beat Hope. And Mark Nordheis and I, we just love to beat each other. And we made each other better. Mark's a great guy, a great coach, and I know he made our program better, and I think we made his better. So if you don't have a rival, you got to start one. Next, there are no givens when it comes to racing, regardless of your team's talent. And every team has to deal with upsets. Injuries are just part of the deal. And sports medicine is just as much art as science, and we as coaches have to recognize that. Secondly, upsets aren't just physical, they can be mental. And there are times when athletes, they let themselves down, they may let the team down, and they have to deal with that. But what's really important for you as coaches is to know that it does not define them as people. It doesn't define their lives. And so we have to be there for them in those times when they just didn't come through. And it cost you a championship or this or that. Those are still individuals, and we have to let them know they will not be failures in life because they didn't make All-American. The best runner to ever not make All-American, in my experience at Calvin, is an MD, a surgeon, a mother, a very successful woman in the community, and thank heaven she didn't let those failures define her. We have to teach and model an attitude of gratitude. Melody Beattie is a kind of a guru on gratitude, and she wrote, "Gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity." Those of you cross-country coaches this fall, did you have any dramas on your team where you really needed to, the chaos had to come to order, the confusion to clarity? Think about introducing gratitude into the equation. Next one, any real human connection involves vulnerability. One year after our winning our second national championship, we entered the NCAA championships out in Spokane, Washington, ranked number 1. And we finished 14th, and the wheels just came off during the race. So I gathered the women together, and we got in our little rental van, and we just cried. We just cried. And then we kind of put on our happy faces, and we went on to cheer our men to their first national championship. We needed to grieve, but we also needed to move on. Scott Erickson, in his book, Honest Advent, wrote, and listen to this quote because it's awesome, "It is only when we have exhausted our tales of trophy winning, when we let down our guards and speak to the truth of our travels, that we find that we connect as humans in the places we have found that we were walking with a limp." And then finally, learn to play the cards you are dealt and learn how to compromise. I wish Washington could figure that out. For me, accepting less than perfection was essential in order to balance the home and family commitments. I couldn't be 100% present anywhere, let alone perfect. That included at work, being a parent, being a wife. You can just ask my family. I was never 100%. I was never perfect. I just had to accept good enough most days, or that's the best I can do. Developing that ability to hold so many balls in the air has taught me a lot about balancing priorities and developing the attitude that most things will work out okay as long as I had the support of my family, which I always did. And if I could follow my purpose, it may have changed over the years, but if I could just follow that purpose, which overall was to serve God through my work and my role in my family, I knew I was okay. So I ask you, especially you young coaches in our audience, which we have a lot, how do you define great? As I look back over my 20-year coaching career, I'm reminded that life and coaching are more about grace and purpose than trophies. Coaching is really hard work, and today it's very complex. I'm glad I'm not coaching anymore. It's got so many pressures. But I believe that we can make a difference, lifelong impact on the lives of athletes entrusted in our care. So I challenge you to be a difference maker with your athletes, coach with a purpose, and by all means, blessings on your coaching journey. Thank you.
Dedication is him, a phrase befitting the legacy of Hall of Fame inductee John Moon. Through decades of coaching at Seton Hall University, coupled with an ongoing dedication to cultivating athletes in his home state of New Jersey, Moon's guiding touch produced a perpetual garden with deep roots. On the insistence of his football coach at Linden High, Moon took his halfback skills to the track, and while he arrived at Tennessee State University on a football scholarship, he found the Cinders is where he would shine in full. While at TSU, he equaled the world record in the 100-yard dash, running 9.3 seconds to win the 1960 NAIA crown. From there, Moon marched to West Point, competing for the U.S. All-Army team. Over that time, Moon matched the all-time world best in the 100 meters and famously handed the legendary Bullet Bob Hayes the final loss of his career. He continued his military service deep into his coaching days, reaching the rank of commander within the U.S. Naval Reserve. His coaching career began at Rahway High School, where he turned a dominant program into a juggernaut that won 33 championships. In 1972, Moon was named Seton Hall's head coach, and waves of success followed immediately. The Pirates won back-to-back national titles in the men's mile relay, including the first time the event was ever conducted at the NCAA Indoor Championships in 1973. In 1994, his women's squad swept national indoor and outdoor 400-meter individual and 4x4 relay crowns. His teams also won 12 Big East championships, 8 IC4A crowns, and 7 Penn Relays championship trophies. Moon served on a number of Team USA coaching staffs as well, including as the lead assistant coach for the U.S. men at the 2000 Sydney Olympic Games. In addition, he served as president for the IC4A, Big East track coaches, and the Metropolitan Track Conference. "I'm in love with the job," he has said. "Track and field has been my life. You don't see millionaire coaches. I'm not in it for the money. The rewards come from the delight of winning races, being recognized by peers, and seeing athletes graduate to the real world. That, to me, is total success." That is John Moon, Hall of Fame, class of 2021.
"50 years, I can't believe it. I mean, 50 years. Well, first of all, let me thank the committee for selecting me. That is an honor. So I'd like to thank you for having me in your dreams and decide to give me this particular honor. And I'd like to thank my family. Unfortunately, my wife is not here, but at the table over here, I have my daughter. I'm proud of her because we both graduated from Tennessee State with degrees. My young brother there, he always remind me that when he was a freshman, he broke my freshman record, what have you. My niece there, to have my sister. We also graduated, have degrees from Seton Hall University. My grandson and my daughter-in-law there to help me, and thank you guys for being here. Okay, I'd like to thank all my former athletes, and I have so many of them, I hate to leave one or two of them out. So, with all my former athletes who are here now, will you please stand? Come on, stand up. one I got to mention is one of the athletes over there is come from my high school team back in, oh Christ, I think it was '68. You know, he was one of my first athletes to go to college. He went to Catholic University, and I think he ran 148 down there. But that was an honor. He was one of my first to move on to the college ranks. Okay, and one of my first, I call it better quality athletes. In '72, I got Orlando Green. I was told that he was the cross-country coach of the year down here in Florida. Orlando, where's he at? Will you stand up? One of my first from Barbados. Now, he got down to 146, okay? 146. Congratulations, thank you, you know. And I gotta say, shout out to Roberto Vivas. He just was named the Coach of the Year, you know, in the state of New York. Roberto, one of my athletes, long time ago at the beginning, but he just went into the Hall of Fame for the state of New York. So Roberto, congratulations, okay? You got to forgive me because I can't see too well, so I got to look at this small print that I wrote myself, you know. Yeah. I want to recognize, it's very rare that when you come to a place like this, you have some of your elite, you know, executives. And I'm fortunate today to have two executives from Seton Hall. I have the executive vice president of Seton Hall and also the athletic director. Well, both of them, Pat Lyons, will you stand up? And Brian Phelps, stand up, please. Okay. Okay. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. You know, in this sport, especially when you get to be an old man, you get a lot of names, okay? I've been called hubby. I've been called boss, dad, granddad, professor, honey, which I like, okay, track, and on the golf course, sometimes they call me Tiger Moon, okay? When I was called Pop Pop, I thought that was utopia because with Pop Pop, that's it's love and money, okay? But you know what? The title of coach, you know, is sincere. A lot of times we don't know the coach's name, but we know he's a coach. That is respect. And I think I honor that title more so than all of them because it means a lot. It's coming from their heart. And when they call me sir in the military, they have to. They have no choice because they got to respect what's on my shoulders. Okay, but when the kids call you coach, I mean, yesterday I was walking through the hall and they were stopping me and calling me coach. They don't realize I got a lump in my throat. It's like, wow, that is respect. And I think we need more of that, you know, in this country, regardless of what party we belong to. You know, I got to look at my life and I can say, when did this journey start? When I started to be an athlete and a coach and in the military and all this, and I go back to when I was coming up, my parents did not want me to play with the local people in the neighborhood, so she got me playing the piano. I hated the damn thing, okay? Me and the piano didn't get along, so I started playing the saxophone. Me and the saxophone didn't get along. Okay, so what I started doing is staying after school, and I told my mother that I was getting enrichment tutoring. Well, actually, I started playing sports, but I didn't tell her that because she would say, no, okay? But that's how I started, by saying I'm doing extra work, and I didn't have to wash the dishes, I had to take out the garbage, and most of all, I didn't have to take care of my little brother, okay? My little brother. But that's the start of there. From there, I moved on to college, and I was lucky in college. I had two outstanding roommates. One was academically off the chart. That was Ralph Boston. He became the Olympic gold medal winner. He taught me a lot. He was a biochemistry major. he stayed in the library, so I started following him. The other one was Dick Barnett. He played with the New York Knicks, and he taught me how to play chess. He was fantastic. Now he's Dr. Barnett. Those who, you old guys like me, you can remember those names, or what have you. So after active duty, started teaching. My high school team, we won about 98 dual meets. We lost about 3. And I was being offered the position of vice principal. So, okay, let me move on with my education. I was working on my doctorate, and in my project was the athletic director of Seton Hall. So we became very good friends. And he convinced me to say, look, we need a coach at Seton Hall. And I was no way thinking about going into coaching, because my parents had geared me, and also the city of Linden and Rawway had geared me to be the principal and superintendent eventually. That was my projected way. But you know what? It just was not me. It just was not me. Okay. So in a way, I took a big cut in salary and went to Seton Hall for the big money of $5,000. Everybody thought I was crazy. I thought I was crazy also. I mean, how in the hell I'm going to make it 5,000? But you know what? And a lot of you guys can relate to this. Once you love the sport, once you're a jock, it's hard to get it out of you. With all the education and everything I had going, it just was not what wasn't me. Okay? After 1 year after Seton Hall, I did very good. I got a raise, $10,000. $10,000. Okay? Of course, times have changed now. But what I'm saying to you is that was something I wanted to do. And the money was not an issue. How did I make it? Hey, I had to work my tail off and selling real estate and doing different things and what have you. But you know what? I did something that I wanted to do, and I was enjoying with that. Okay? Some of the events that I remember in my career, I go back to my high school days. I remember starting a program at the high school. We didn't have a track, indoor, outdoor. We had to wait until the faculty members leave, and we had to put cones in the park and train in the parking lot. When it get too cold and icy, then they allowed us to run in the hallways, what have you. So that was the beginning of that program. And what happened? Hey, we had, without a track, what have you, we had 98 wins and 3 losses. That was just fantastic, because it's something that I wanted to do. I remember recruiting, and I go to the individual's house, and he said, you know, Coach Moon, I always really wanted to run for Seton Hall. I said, wow. I said, why? Because, you know, my father ran for you. I said, wow, that's pretty nice. Let me fast forward, go to another recruit. You know, Coach Moon, I really want to run for you. I said, why? He said, because my grandfather ran for you. So I said, let me go home, get my AARP book out, and get the coupons, because look what happened, you know. And then there's another situation. Now, you coaches can relate to this. I recruit this kid, you know, he says, I want a full scholarship. And I'm, you know, yeah, no problem, because back in them days, we had a lot of scholarships. I'll talk about that later. So he said he's running the 60-meter. Fine, told me his time, and I was really impressed. So I said, full scholarship, what else do you do? He said, oh, that's it. I said, you want a full scholarship just to run the 60? I said, son, for a full scholarship 60, you got to run the marathon also. You know, back in the olden days where I came up, you know, we ran the 1, the 2, and the 4, and didn't think nothing of it. But now they want to specialize, you know, no, you want to run that, you know, you want to get percentage. You don't get the whole thing. You want the whole thing, that means the marathon also. whatever. Okay. I remember one time we had just broke the world's record. We held the world's record for 3 months in the distant medley, and we was excited. So we go to NC2A championship, it's a big day, and we just know we're gonna kick ass. And all 4 of the guys was from New Jersey. So we go to the NC2A championship, and would you believe Arkansas had a guy to anchor 3:56, and my kid ran at about 4:06. But you know what? But we had the world's record in the DM for 3 months. That was an honor. That was an honor. I remember a situation in Cobalt Hall in Detroit. The young coaches don't remember the 120, 160 board tracks. Now we had won the mile relay 2 years consecutive. So we said, okay, this time, we're gonna do something no other college has ever done. We're gonna win the mile relay 3 years in a row. Okay, my time was so good that nobody can touch us. So I told the guys, just think about practice, easy running, just relax. You win, after you win, we'll go have dinner. You don't have to spend your meal money, it's on me. Okay, not realizing these guys, I don't want to call them no names, they had got together that night, they're gonna break the world's record. They're gonna break the world's record. And you know what happened? My leadoff man jumped the gun. That was the only time in all my years of my coaching I wanted to kill the SOB. That's the only time I wanted to kill, because there was no reason. No reason. They're gonna break the world's record. Give me a break. You know what I mean? But those are part of coaching. And then another time, everybody know Coach Moon. We do a lot of 500 running, a lot of 600-meter practice, what have you. So we're in Detroit, and in the finals of the mile relay. My team is way out in front. My ankle man, he's so adept to running 600. He was running the 600 meters the whole race. Now, the officials lost track of how many laps. So my kid was still running, and the officials are still looking, and I'm up in the stands wondering what the hell's going on. Because they ran 2 laps longer. And my ankle man didn't realize it, because in practice he'd run them 600s, he thought it was normal. But that was another incident. Then, I had the honor, and I was independent relays, and my girls was running the mile relay, and this is the first time I had a female split 49. Wow. I was timing it, I didn't believe it. I looked at it, then they say, 49 point, Flirticia Harris split 49. To me, I thought that was utopia. I said, holy shit, look how fast this girl, and look how fast the girls are going now, what have you. But that was just fantastic. Now, another time, now this will really kill you. For you track coaches, you know what times are. So I had this quarter miler, matter of fact, he's here now. I had this quarter miler I recruited from New Jersey. He was running pretty good in New Jersey. Matter of fact, he was supposed to go to Syracuse. Matter of fact, the coach Syracuse came in a few minutes ago and said I stole his guy. So anyway, in New Jersey, he was probably the number 2, number 3 best quarter miler, and 2 of the guys he never beat before. So anyway, we're practicing. So I said today's workout would be 3 times 600. And I said, well, look, we're going to run about 124, 125 pace, easy, relaxed control, getting ready for the junior nationals in California. The first one, he went 118. So I'm saying, I'm going to say exactly what I said. Holy shit. Okay, but I didn't tell him, because I figured that he's going to die, he can't come back again. So he ran the second one, 118.4. So I'm saying, I still didn't tell him. The third one, 118. So what I told him after he said, Coach, how did I do? I said, Andrew, you are ready. He goes out to California, wins the junior nationals, beat the kid in New Jersey, I'm not going to give his name, who he never beat before, and he wins, I think he went 45 point first time. But can you imagine, for you track coaches, running 3,600 and 118? That's a monster. And of course, everybody know later on he wins 2 gold medals in the Olympics. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to show you. Those 500, 600 works. Now, I have the good fortune, I think I have 7 couples on my team that's been married. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So we're doing something good socially also, whatever. And also, and one of those couples, I mean, I have 2 outstanding, I call them my grandkids right now, Noel and Jofisa. Lyles, where are they? Ray, stand up, guys. Where are they? They're over here somewhere. They had to go to bed. Well, anyway, they're the number 2. They 2 of the best 400, 800 meter runners in the country right now, and they're offsprings of my 2 athletes from Seton Hall University. And I feel like they're mine. Okay. There's another incident, 800 meter. I recruited this kid from Albany. Went over to New York to recruit him. He's standing about 6'3", 6'4". He was running the 1 and the 2. And I knew he was too tall to be a sprinter. And I said to myself, if I get this kid, maybe I can get him and change him into a mile or a half mile or what have you. Okay. Long story short, he's telling me to speed it up. Tracy Baskin at the NC2A championship at the 600 meter mark held his hands up. So everybody, all the coaches said, Coach Moon, do you teach those boys that? I said, I don't know what the hell he's doing. He won the race, but the idea of doing something like that. My last comment is this, on a serious note, for our sports, for you young coaches, we need more of you young coaches to go into administration to help our sport out. We need it badly. I know right now we are getting complacent. You love your job, and then now the salaries are getting good. But, you know, we get to these conventions, we make rules and regulations, and we move them on to a lot of administrators who have nothing to do with track and field. We need you guys to somehow get more involved, you know, in the sports administration. It'll be a big help. Thank you, and
Champions win championships, and championship coaches become Hall of Famers. That's LSU's Dennis Shaver. Shaver enters the Hall on top. The Tigers' 2021 campaign was historic. They won the NCAA Division I men's outdoor track and field crown on the strength of 6 event titles, second most in championship history. But that's now. If we rewind the tape, you'll find a younger Dennis Shaver back in his home state of Kansas, landing his first coaching opportunity as an assistant football coach and an assistant track and field coach at Hutchinson Community College. Nearby rival Barton Community College hired Shaver away as head track and field coach in 1985. And as if there was mojo in the Kansas high hills of Great Bend, his women's team won 8 NJCAA titles, including the first Triple Crown in junior college history in 1990 and 91. It was obvious to Coaches Hall of Fame member Mel Rosen that there was more than just wheat waving on the plains of Kansas. Dennis Shaver had coaching talent. So in 1992, Rosen hired Shaver as an assistant coach at Auburn. A few years later, he was brought to Baton Rouge by another Hall of Famer, Pat Henry. Henry and Shaver worked together for 9 years at LSU, a span in which the Tigers won 12 national championships and led athletes to 18 individual and 7 relay NCAA titles. When Henry took over at the helm of Texas A&M in 2004, Shaver was an obvious successor for the storied LSU program. From 2004 to present day, the Tigers have added a pair of NCAA track and field team titles, tallied 29 top 4 podium finishes, and amassed 106 event national crowns, including 26 in the relays. At the SEC Championships, Shaver's teams have combined for 33 top 3 finishes, 191 individual event crowns, and 43 relay titles. The long list of legendary athletes coached by Shaver includes the program's 2 winners of the Bowerman, Kimberlyn Duncan in 2012 and Sha'Carri Richardson in 2019. He's also coached 34 Olympians, 12 of them medalists. In addition to his coaching accolades, he's also served as president of the USTFCCCA from 2017 to 2019. Now the ultimate recognition for Dennis Shaver, 2021 Coaches Hall of Fame inductee.
Past my bedtime. Well, thank you and good evening. First, let me say thanks to Sam Seams and the Hall of Fame Committee for this incredible honor. And congratulations to all of each of my fellow inductees for their dedication to the sports that we all love. First, I'd like to also say that my mother and my family back in Kansas are watching virtually. So, Mom, at 92 years of age, I love you. And other family members who are watching virtually this evening. And to my dad, I know you are proud and watching from above. To my wife, Connie, of 42 years, our children, Dale and Lindsay, my son-in-law, Alex, and our grandchildren who are here this evening, Ella, Jude, and Rose, I will forever be thankful for your love, your support, and understanding of a coach's life. I love you all and could not have done this career without each of you. Give you a little background. I grew up in a small rural community outside of Salina, Kansas. You've all heard of Headville, I'm sure. And began working on my grandfather's farm at an early age. We had cattle, we had pigs, we had all kinds of animals. We planted and we harvested over 1,000 acres of wheat, corn, or other crops each year. 18-hour summer work days was pretty much the norm in the summertime. There were 14 people in my high school graduating class. Half of them were my cousins. I played 8-man football in high school, but I was fortunate enough to earn a scholarship to play in college. Athletics has always been my passion and my ticket to making a life for myself away from the farm. I participated in 3 sports in high school: football, basketball, and track. I loved competing, and I knew I wanted to be a coach. I just did not know what sport. After college, I accepted a job at Hutchinson Community College, coaching both football and track and field. I will always be grateful for my time there, as I was able to learn from a man who, without a doubt, was the best teacher and coach I've ever had the opportunity to work beside and learn from. That was the late Willie Atkins. After coaching at Hutchinson for 4 years, I had the opportunity to work for the late President Dr. Jimmy Downing at Barton County Community College. And I bring up the junior college here in the room because I know we have a lot of junior college coaches. And trust me, those were some of the best years of my life coaching in junior college. So enjoy it while you can. While there, I began coaching only track and field and cross country, along with my assistant coach, Randy Cole, who is here tonight. Along with him, it was Dr. Downing's vision that we, and the leadership that he provided us, support us to help us win the first ever college Triple Crown in junior college history. After 6 years at Barton County, I was hired, as you saw earlier, to be an assistant coach at Auburn University with Mel Rosen, Pat Dye, and Harvey Glantz, giving me my first taste of Division I coaching. 4 years later, I heard that LSU had an opening for women's sprint hurdle coach. I'd made a visit many years prior to LSU and thought it'd be just an amazing place to coach. So, being the aggressive person I can be at times, I contacted Pat Henry. And I was fortunate that he took a chance and hired me. I arrived in Baton Rouge in September 1995 on the Tuesday after Labor Day, just in time for the first practice. I enjoyed working as an assistant with Coach Henry for 10 years. It was a lot of hard work, but very rewarding. But I also want to thank him for leaving LSU. The athletic director at that time was Coach Skip Bertman, the famous baseball coach at LSU. And I'd like to thank him for believing in me. It was with his support and the support of Coach Boo, Chuck Snyder, Coach Mark Elliott, and the athletes at LSU that I was named the next head coach of the LSU Tiger program. To this day, after years of retirement, Coach Bertman never misses an opportunity to call and wish our team luck at all SEC and NCAA championship meets. I've always tried to hire great people as assistant coaches and then just get out of their way and let them do their thing. So to Coach Boo, Coach Todd, Coach Tamara, Coach Benny, Coach Houston, and to Coach Jerry and all of the former assistant coaches, I would like to personally thank you for your part in making this recognition possible. You are all awesome most of the time. To all the support staff, our Director of Operations, tonight too, joining at the table here, we have a couple graduate students that were just totally awesome working for us in Mina and Maya. I really appreciate you all making the trip from California and from Kansas, or Missouri, wherever that place is. But thank the trainers, managers, nutritionists. And, you know, it takes a lot of people to have the kind of success that we all wish for and hope for as coaches. And all of these people have really made it a great ride for myself. Sometimes you hire people who are so great, they are hired away from you by your boss. And yes, Andrea, my former Director of Operations, who's now our department's Chief of Staff for the department, and then of course now Andy for filling the role of Director of Operations. I really appreciate everything you do for our staff and for our team. I want to thank Lori Williams, my sports supervisor, for making the trip here to be here for this convention too. Thank you, Lori. Every year I think that I've pretty much seen it all, but every year something happens that really just kind of blows me away. There's never a dull moment in our world of track and field, and that's one of the things that makes both challenging and so rewarding. I really want to thank the athletes who will be Tigers for life. I also want to thank Richard Thompson. Richard, if you'd stand up, I'd really appreciate that. Richard, a silver medalist in Beijing in the 100 meters. It's people like Richard that we have the opportunity to work with on a daily basis that really doesn't make it work but makes it a lot of fun, and you look forward to every day at practice. There are a lot of reasons I'm being honored tonight. Everyone in the room faces many challenges really for the future of our sports. I just say don't be afraid to fight the fight and stand for what's right. And in closing, I often tell our athletes a couple of things, so I'm going to share it with you. Worry about the things you have control over so you can control your own future path. And secondly, if they hear it all, if it were easy, everybody could do it. So thank you, and I wish everybody a safe holiday.
All right, so Coach Shaver said he needs to go to bed. So we're going to wrap this thing up. But before we do, I would like all of our class of 21 inductees to move forward to the stage so we can take a picture. The rest of you, good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.